Guys, we're in the back bay, and this is the project with John Buckley, and as you can see, I'm walking up the stairs. So these stairs were actually fabricated by King Stairs off-site. We walked you guys through how Colby and his team cast this U shape in the plaster on the walls, and that was critical because we needed that accuracy to be really high, because this stair, as I said, was built off-site and was going to be put into place in 2 pieces. So the guys actually came out in 2 sections and dropped this into place.
Sorry about that, I got that right in your face.
And as you can see, everything is built. They got wall protection up right now, but everything fit exactly as the way it should. So they were here about 2 to 3 days getting this installed, and then also this kind of return piece, as well as our metal balusters and our stained handrail. So one of the benefits of building something like this off-site is you have a whole workshop to build this. You guys have seen some of our previous projects where we've actually built the staircase on-site as well as in our shop. And the reason we're not doing it in-house is frankly because we have so much other work to focus on here that subcontracting it to someone like Bob King has given us the opportunity for them to focus on something that they're really good at. They went through everything with a 3D model, building this, working through some of the nuances and the details. It's a very tight stair in a very tight spot. There was a lot of micro details that we had to work through. If you're listening to the Modern Craftsman, I talk all the time about off-site construction and how we should be utilizing off-site construction to increase the efficiency of projects like this. Beyond the staircase, we're also working on all of our interior trim. So we have our carpenters on site, and they are working on the multi-piece crown molding here in the living room. We'll kind of save this wall paneling for a moment, because back in the library it's actually almost complete. But what we got going on is essentially a box beam that the guys went around the room and got that situated, and now they're coming back and putting all of the crown molding up. Some of the things that are really important, especially when doing a really complicated crown detail, is a flat ceiling. So again, Colby and his team came in here, made sure that they were setting a really good foundation for us to build up this crown molding. When you're battling with wonky ceilings or ceilings that have a lot of life to them, it just makes the install a lot more complicated and a lot more difficult to execute. So when you do have a nice flat surface, you're spending more time on the actual trim itself rather than trying to make that trim look good against something that doesn't look so great. So we're working with a complete Kuiken Brothers molding package here. This is something that we brought up. We have a great relationship with Kuiken Brothers. So we introduced them to John Buckley, who's the architect on this project, and worked through their product catalog of their classical molding line, and essentially used a handful of profiles here, not only on the crown molding, but as well as some of the window casing, which we'll see over in the other room, as well as the baseboard, which is really nice because this stuff has a lot of deep shadows. The molding is cut really deep, so you do get those really rich profiles. Speaking of shadows, in the hallway here, this is actually a really cool detail that we haven't done before, is that we have a shadow gap, not only on the top of the crown, but as well as on the wall. Now, you know, what that shadow gap is made up of is essentially we have the crown pulled away from the wall in about a ½ inch direction down and out. And then we just set back just about, you know, 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch is a vertical piece. So yes, you have a small ledge there, which would typically be cocked to the ceiling. But what this is going to do is that when we have our wall color come up and hit the base of that crown, it's going to give you a really, really crisp line because of that shadow. When you do have that cock line, you can get a crisp line, but when you have an intentional hard edge, which you do here because it is separated, it gives you almost an even more crisp line. Back in the library, all wall paneling in this room So a couple questions that came up when we had talked about this is what we're using on the walls, and the wall is actually what we call a combo core. So it is a plywood core material. So you have the 3 layers of the plywood, and then it's faced on either side with an MDF material. And what this is, the reason we use this is rather than hanging gypsum board and plastering it and then making sure it's flat, this gives us a consistent flat surface, and we're able to hide all the seams within our chair rail and our panel details. So it looks really nice, gives us a nice flat surface, and this is something that we use also in our painted cabinetry. So we pulled this from the guys at Materia as a product that made a lot more sense than plastering and adding molding. And it also allows us to get this detail that is kind of subtle, but this surface here is actually at a different elevation than this. So this isn't just a flat wall that has an applied molding. You actually have a recessed panel. We're using the Kuiken Brothers panel molding here, which transitions from a deeper panel to essentially what is a rail on that wall, and then working your way down to a chair rail and their one-piece baseboard. All of our plugs are in the baseboard and recessed. The team actually worked with a manufacturer that makes this jig. We actually modified it on site a little bit. Now all of our receptacles will sit flush. It is not a true fig application or something that's completely invisible, but it is recessed flush, so you don't have that switch plate on top of your baseboard. Rather, it's nice and flat. But you can see here, a lot of the crown molding is already completed and being prepped for paint. So we have multiple pieces. I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces of molding just from here, but there's a box being built up, and a lot of pieces that kind of allow you to get out to that final condition. And it pairs really nice with the layout with the HVAC registers, the lights. And speaking of HVAC, we have this section here, if you spin around, that's being left out, and that's going to be essentially one component that will be removable. We'll use the lamello tensos up there, and that will be so you can access part of the HVAC equipment that requires maintenance. So we're going to think about how that gets accessed, how it's used, and make sure it's easy to be able to take in and out for our home care team. So let's go downstairs. Nice thing about these stairs is, they're super comfortable. Like I said, it's a really tight spot. Even when you get down to this hallway, you see the staircase working its way into the hallway, but really comfortable, really feels pretty fluid coming down. So down here we have a lot of our door casing installed. If you flip around, we have our window casing installed back here. Again, working with the Kuiken Brothers profiles. And we're working a lot with some of these. A lot of you guys always ask, oh, what's up with the windows? Why do they look like that? We're in a brownstone, just to remind you guys, we're an old brownstone. A lot of these windows are existing or replacement windows. This one, in fact, I'm sure a couple of you guys are gonna ask why that swings in. That's actually for an access. So this is a bedroom, and they need a fire access, and we have a device out there that will allow a firefighter to open up that grate, and then this window can be opened if you ever had a life-saving situation. But this casing, we have a couple versions of that on the site. I want to call attention to a detail that Tim, our site super shared, but you can see these are a lamello tenso, but essentially it's a biscuit joint that has this. Up there, you have the receiving device, and this will go up and snap into place. And why is that important? Well, we have these shades that will, if you look up here, we have this metal shade pocket, and our shade will actually sit up there. So when this is removed, you can service that shade. When it's in place and that shade goes all the way up, it allows this window to open and nothing is hanging down in front of it. Nice detail by our carpenters. It's gonna look really nice when it's all done. In this project, some of you guys have asked, are we doing floors before or after? In this project, we've decided to phase it and get all our baseboard in first, and then tight fit our floor. Now, I think there's an age-old argument. I've scribed base to floors, and I've also scribed floors to base. And in here, it makes sense from a schedule perspective. So turning our attention to this guest bathroom, a couple things I wanted to point out. Number one, the stone jamb is a really nice detail, and I'll tell you why. Oftentimes we don't have stone jambs, and the transition from baseboard to tile is always this return piece of baseboard. It returns into itself, or it terminates and it gets wet because it tries to die into the side of a piece of Schluter. The nice thing here is that stone, extends out far enough where that baseboard can be returned into the backside of it and look really intentional. Intentionality is one of our core values. That's really important. Another thing is, you know, the intentional design where John Buckley had worked with our team and our carpenters and even our partner at Material Millwork built these cubbies for us, but the intentional step in you know, the niche to the chair rail, all of it's really considerate and scaled appropriately, but always having somewhere to end and die into, like the side of that jamb. Another nice detail I appreciate my team will do is they actually use PVC on the baseboard that's close to the shower. So we all know that outside that shower is going to get wet. The floor might be wet here and there. We don't want that baseboard to suck up moisture. So that piece of square stock is actually PVC. And when it's all painted, you'll never know. Another detail worth pointing out, Tim's done a really good job making sure that our tile to our future wood floor transition ends underneath the middle of your door slab. So when the door is shut, you don't see tile, and when you're in the bathroom, you don't see the wood. Really nice detail, important for us, again, talking about intentionality. And then working down here, we have our primary bath, a little dark in here. We have a stone jamb, which is white dolomite, gives us that opportunity to dye our base into the side of it and not have this odd transition from stone jamb to our baseboard. And it also gives us a really nice place to mount our shower door hardware. And also important is that when you have a sweep or a gasket on these doors, you're not working against an irregular surface such as a tile. You have a nice flat surface. So that stone detail that John had designed looks really nice. The team executed it really well. The last thing I wanted to point out was this here. Tim calls it the monster jamb or mega jamb? The monster jamb. And this is what is considered as a moment. So we have all this traditional casing throughout the project by Kuiken brothers, and then here we're transitioning into our primary suite. And in doing that, John wanted this kind of modern moment of having this really thick flat stock jamb where you were walking kind of down this hallway and transitioning into a new space. So really cool detail. The guys did a really great job mitering all this together and returning it back into the wall. So really cool to see that come together. Do not step on these tiles. Should I break dance on them? So Tim is actually laying out tile here because this is actually another complicated detail. I'm gonna follow Tim out here and kind of show you what's going on. But in this back room here, which will be laundry room, and I think we've called it the Peloton room since the beginning of time, but we have this this essentially inspection hole, and it's a piece of steel right now. And what Tim's doing is he's laying out this tile to figure out how he can land one full tile on top of this steel plate. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually install all the tile, leave this one tile out, and then we're gonna make this tile removable. Exactly how we're gonna do that, we'll share that for a future episode. But down here in the primary suite, you can see that we have that shadow crown molding again, that really cool intentional gap at the top. I know you guys, all of the haters will call them, say that that's gonna be a dust trap. I mean, something is gonna always capture dust. The flat sills on the windows are gonna capture dust. If you keep your house clean, it's gonna look great. And with a nice coat of paint up there, it's gonna be really easy to dust. And then of course we have our great casing again by Kuiken brothers. Those deep window jambs because it is a brownstone and we have those really thick brick walls, brand new windows, and really just seeing all of this stuff come together is really great. So again, this is our Back Bay project with John Buckley Architects and Karen Howe Interior Design. And a big thank you to Kuiken brothers for working with us and helping develop the molding package with the entire team to make sure that we were able to execute these details and have something that was really better than what was available to us locally. So see you guys next time.